Thank you so much for joining us today for the Pastor's Potluck Podcast. Here on the Pastor's Potluck, it's similar to a normal potluck where you might get something that you want and there may be something that you just want to pass up altogether. And that's okay. There's something here for everybody. Our goal here is to encourage you and maybe in the process entertain you. If you're ready, let's dig in. Well, hello there. We are back with another episode of the Pastor's Potluck Podcast. I'm joined today with Pastor Scott. Man, we've had an incredible week this week.
Yeah.
It's just been awesome. For those of you that possibly listen in other different states and parts of the world, and we've had an awesome week. We started off this past Sunday with Compassion Sunday. We've had VBS all week. It's just been amazing, just all the ministry and everything else that's happened. So shout out to Pastor Jessica. You've done an excellent job. Keep up the good work and the hard work that you are putting towards investing in our children. It's just awesome to see. Now, does it still kind of take you back every once in a while that your sister is like the kids pastor? Do you still like just catch yourself stopping and going, wow, like she's doing a pretty decent job?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, we knew that would be the case, and so.
But it's your sister.
Really nice. Yeah. That was one of those things when we were going through the interviewing process, when me and Pastor Cheryl were sitting in an office one day, and naturally, as it being a family member, I'm apprehensive. Like, I don't know, God, is this really what you want? And Cheryl looked at me and she said, Scott, this was right after her interview. She said, Scott, if anyone else in the world had this resume in that interview, you would hire them on the spot. I said, all right, that's all okay. Like, in this moment, I'm just going to have to say, yeah, you're 100% right, and it doesn't matter if she's related to me or not. And, I'm very, very happy. I left Monday night because I missed Sunday night of it, but I left Monday night and talked to Megan, and I said, what we just did there was incredible. Like, it was done very well. The decorations are good. The snacks are good. All the volunteer teams are filled out, and I see people volunteering that are new to the church. Yeah. There was a mess load of kids. Our kids brought friends, and it's just I just was really blown away that it was done. It was done really, really well.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that's kind of that has been catching me off guard with the whole VBS was the amount of money that was brought in for our mission partners, kids around the world, and specifically the partnership that we have in Ecuador. Yeah, like that's incredible. Like after the first 2 nights, we had over $100, over $100. And in giving towards that cause and that mission it's just showing that everybody's on board, even from the oldest people in the church all the way down to our youngest people, and they're all bought into this vision that we have for our mission partners in Ecuador, helping build those playgrounds and the food packing that we're going to be doing. So.
Yeah, this offering thing was such a good idea because it goes with the theme of making waves, and they've been teaching the kids all week about how what we do right now can actually affect the world. Like, it can change the world. Like, we can make waves all around by what we do right now. And, like, the money that they bring in, I don't know that the kids are fully comprehending this or not, but the money that they bring in every single what is it? It's around 27 cents. Every 27 cents they just fed a kid.
That's crazy.
So they've brought in, early on in the week, it was over $100 already. Yeah. And it's going to be way more than that when this airs on Friday, but we're recording this early. Yeah. It'll be way more than that. And every about 25 to 27 cents feeds a kid.
Yeah, so every dollar, it's 4 kids.
So it's like these kids here that are having fun at Vacation Bible School are actually making waves by feeding kids in Ecuador through bringing in their offering.
Yeah.
And so it's a really tangible way for them to understand how you really can make waves. Like, one thing that we do right now really can change somebody's world.
Yeah.
And it's a incredible opportunity. So I'm very, very happy with Vacation Bible School.
Yeah.
And the quality of it and the amount of kids that we've seen come out. And just getting to talk to kids about Jesus. I'm excited to see all the people volunteering and kids bringing friends. So just praying that it bears a lot of fruit for the kingdom of God.
Amen.
And I'm very happy with it, though.
Yep. Excellent. Well, I wanted to continue our discussion that we had time before last, and we were talking about leadership and personal development and personal growth.
Yeah.
And if you haven't gone to listen to it, it's a great way if you're wanting to make some changes in your life. Maybe there's some goals that you wanted to set, or some things that you wanted to see happen in your personal life, which in turn, like, it carries over to your professional life as well. Yeah. But just being just well disciplined and starting that process of working on yourself. And so one of the things that we took away from last time is that we hinted a little bit of this, but I wanted to kind of condense it, is that we talked about how leadership doesn't develop in a day. It develops daily.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit more about that process of of wanting to see these things happen, and the importance of just changing just minor things in your routine to where it's going to get you to these long-term goals that you have.
Yeah. I mean, I just see it in my own personal journey, of how I wanted to get so far so fast, but that's just not the process that this stuff happens.
Yeah.
At all. You really do have to make little deposits every day, because it's not one of those things like, oh, maybe you had a goal to read a leadership book this year. You want to get better at being a leader, so you read your leadership book in January and you haven't done anything since then.
Yeah.
Well, you've probably progressed a lot in January, and then this is just the drift of life. You've probably stagnated or even regressed a little bit as you haven't made daily deposits. But every day that you decide to do something to make yourself better, then that continues the growth process. So there's not one program that you can do where just in 1 day or 2 days or 3 days it's going to get you all the way to where you want to be. It really is little deposits all day and even throughout the day that are going to make a big difference in you growing. And that's really in everything that we want to grow in.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, one of the reasons why, like me personally, why I struggle to get back in shape is, like, I don't have a problem going to the gym once. I have a problem going to the gym 5 times.
Yeah.
Right. So and so that's the problem with people that want to grow in leadership. Like you may get really amped up one week to, I'm going to do this, and this. But like doing that for 4 months is difficult.
Yeah.
That's the hard part of spiritual growth as well. I'm going to read my Bible every day. You read it that first day, no problem. Read it day 2, no problem. Something happens on day 3, and then 3 months later you're like, I remember that day that I wanted to.
What happened?
Yeah. It has to be those daily or near, almost daily deposits that are going to make the long-term difference. But it just doesn't. There's no quick fixes to getting better in life.
Yeah.
There's nothing. You can't lose weight overnight. You can't, get spiritually healthy. You can't make your marriage healthy in just one day or one night. It is deposits daily over a long course of time that brings change and growth.
Yeah. It's kind of like return on investment. Like you hear that a lot in people buying houses or they're flipping houses or something like that. It's like whatever you initially put in, like what are you going to get out of it? If you only put $5 in, you're only going to get $5 in a couple of change.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But if you deposit more in the long run, then your return on investment is going to come back sometimes 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 fold.
Yeah.
And so it's the same with leadership and personal development and personal growth. It's good. It's good that you've made the initial step of doing something one day, but continually depositing, like you said, the return that you're going to get and the growth that you're going to see on those deposits is just going to be it's just going to be compounded by so much.
Yeah, it's the principle of compound interest.
Yeah.
This is why you should invest early in life, because the longer that it can sit there and grow, the more impact that it's going to have. And then as you continue to add to that, what you started early and what you do often down the road makes a gigantic difference. And so that's the same thing with these little leadership investments that you're making. You do them early, you do them often, and then they begin to compound to where you really start exponential growth as the result of those early and often investments.
Yeah. I was reading one of John Maxwell's books a while back, and as I was going and planning over the show notes and everything, all these different questions and topics that we're going to talk about, one of the things I had highlighted in one of his books, and it transferred, and it just goes for everybody. If you want to grow in yourself and personal development, then it transfers over to leadership into like the business side of things. But he said that the first person that you lead is your own self.
Oh yeah.
And I thought that was just so profound, because if we can't lead others if we're not leading ourselves well. Which was just, it's always good to be reminded of those things. If I want to lead people, I've got to lead myself well.
Yeah.
If I want people to grow in their faith, I've got to be leading myself in my personal faith journey and my faith development as well.
Yeah, we used to host the Global Leadership Summit here. We were a host site for it here at Southridge, and we used to have people that wouldn't want to attend because they're like, "Well, I'm not a leader." Like someone would be like, "Well, I'm retired. I just stay at home now," or "I'm a stay-at-home mom," or "Well, I'm not the boss at work. I just Well, what you just said is what we would always respond to them. It's like, no. You're definitely a leader, because at the very least, every day you wake up, you have to lead the person that you see in the mirror.
Yeah.
It reminds me of, again, I'm a huge fan of The Office, and they are interviewing for a new manager after Michael Scott leaves on that show, and Kelly Kapoor, who I'm blanking on that actress's name for some reason. I know it, but I'm blanking on her name. She comes in. She's a very funny character. And she's talking to them in the interview about how she's done well managing her department and everything. And one of the interviewers goes, "Well, Kelly, you are in a one-person department." She goes, "Yeah, and I am very difficult to manage." And so that's what I think of when I think of people that go, "Well, I'm not a manager, or I'm not a leader, or whatever." It's like, no. You have to take, at the very least, you have to lead yourself every single day. So you want to become a really good leader and developer of leaders, even if it's only you that you're developing. I mean, wouldn't you want the best person possible to be the one directing and guiding your process? So we have to, all of us, no matter what you do for a living, no matter what roles you fill, you're still a leader, because you're still responsible for, at the very least, you.
Yeah.
If you're a parent, you're responsible for the way you lead your kids. If you're a business owner, then, there's all different facets of it, but at the very least, you are in charge of leading you. And if you don't lead you, then you won't make any progress in life.
Yeah. So good. So good. So continue to lead yourself well, and then that transfers over to other aspects and areas of your life.
Mindy Kaling. I finally remembered.
I was going to guess that, and I don't even watch the show.
Yeah, I finally remembered Mindy Kaling.
Because whenever you said that, I was like, I could picture her saying that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really funny scene, but like it just makes me think of the importance of self-leadership.
Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about priorities and understanding your needs and then prioritizing them. And these are the things that you need to accomplish versus things that really don't make a difference in your personal growth. How can someone begin to understand those needs, prioritize them, and figure out what is the best course of action for personal growth, personal strategy, and also growing in your leadership?
Yeah. I think when it comes to priorities, Stephen Covey in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People has a great chapter on making sure that we are focused on the proper things. And he does that through the 4 quadrants of what is important and what's urgent.
Yeah.
And that we need to spend the majority of our time on things that are important but not urgent.
Yeah.
And that's how we should prioritize our day. We should have nothing that we do should fall into the quadrant of not important, not urgent. If you have anything at all that is on your to-do list in life, that if you really looked at it and you said, you know what, this is not important, I don't even need to be doing this, it's definitely not urgent, then you should just take it off your list. You should just stop. Because eventually you might get around to doing it, but if it's not worth doing, you shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Then you've got some stuff that's urgent but not important. You should have very little that falls into that category. You have some that's urgent and important. That's where a lot of people live their life, and it's why so many people burn out and go from job to job and are constantly looking for escape, because you're constantly working on what's urgent and important, and you haven't yet learned the process of getting to where we're working on things that are important but not urgent. And so that's how we prioritize our workload, to make sure that we are doing things that matter, but I don't always want to be under the gun, because that will ultimately be damaging to me personally, to do that. One of the other things that I, when it comes to priorities, we used to do a little staff huddle. This would have been 7 or 8 years ago, I bet now, with our old lead pastor, and the staff would gather every morning. We would actually gather in a different room in the church building every morning. So the way we would pray in different areas. So whatever room we were in, we would pray. But then we also added on to that where we would let one of the staff members would bring like a devotional or a leadership thought or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget one of them that Pastor Michael brought to one of those huddles. I think that's where he did this. If not, it would have been at a staff meeting or something. But he came in and he talked about the principle or the concept of eating the frog. Have you ever heard this before?
Yeah, there's a book. It's called Eat That Frog.
Yeah. You have it?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. So he talked about this, and essentially it's like if there's something on your to-do list that you do not want to do, like you absolutely are dreading this, that you need to go ahead, and that's kind of like the frog on your desk, like that you need to go ahead and eat the frog first thing in the morning, knock it out, get it over with, rather than keep pushing it off, because as you procrastinate and push stuff off, you become less effective at the things that you're doing that you actually want to do. Mm-hmm. So if you can get that off of your plate, then you'll actually become more effective at everything else that has to happen. Yeah. And so I have this internal dialogue quite often. Like, if there's a frog on my to-do list, just push through and get it done, because I'm going to be more effective doing the things that I actually want to do throughout the day if I go ahead and get that over with. So if there's if there's a meeting that I need to have that's going to be really tough, I'm going to schedule that thing first thing in the morning, because I don't want it weighing on me throughout the day and impeding my ability to be able to think well throughout the day. Or if there's a phone call that I have, do it first. Or maybe it's just this busy work that I don't like. I'm trying to think. One of the things that we have to do here is receipts, right? It's just like, and I don't like doing it. Whenever I had an assistant for like 6 months. I didn't have to do my own receipts, but now I'm back to having to do my own receipts, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I hate this so much.
Yeah.
But like, it's just good if I don't like doing something, just come in and get it done.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, there's also like we went through the Kerry Newhoff's time management course here at the church. And, like, he talks about making sure that you're doing things in your optimal hours throughout the day.
Yeah.
And so, like, you also want to keep in mind, like, if you have really important tasks that need to be done, you need to find when you are at your best to do those. So don't let eating the frog overtake that either.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm going to be at my best between probably 9:30 and 12:30, whenever I eat lunch. That's going to be about the 3 hours of the day. I'm going to be at my absolute best.
Yeah.
That's when I do my studying. Like, I don't want between 9:30 and 12:30. I'm not going to answer email. I can answer email when I'm brain dead at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I'm not going to, so whatever it might be. So, yes, there are times that you just need to eat the frog, get it off the way. But you also really need to think about when you're at your best. Yeah. Like, if you're not at your best at 9 a.m., you shouldn't be doing the most important part of your job at 9 a.m.
Yeah.
You should find other stuff to put in. Like, if you're a night owl, and there are some people, like, hey, I'm really good between 9 p.m. and midnight. All right, well, then figure out some way to do what you do best between 9 p.m. and midnight.
Yeah.
Because that's when you're going to get your best, right? Yeah. And so, I mean, I know people that their best is between like 4:30 a.m. and like 7:30 a.m. All right, well, then schedule your day in a way to do what is most important, what is going to yield the greatest gain in your life during the most optimal hours. And then it doesn't mean that you only get to work 3 hours a day or whatever. It means just do the stuff that requires less brain power.
Yeah.
The rest of the day, okay, do your receipts, do your mileage log, do your, whatever it is.
Yeah.
In the unoptimal hours to make the most of that time, because I can get more sermon prep done when I'm super focused in my prime time than I could if I sat like
for the other 21 hours of the day.
Yeah.
I mean, it would just be, it's almost like dragging your feet.
Yeah.
Because you know yourself well enough that during this specific time, like you said, the process is perfected. Your brain's firing on all cylinders. You've got it. I mean, you're fresh with coffee, early in the morning, and you're focused on it. But if you do all these other things, if you save it for the afternoon, for you, it falls into a different category because your brain begins to shift to dad and husband mode, baseball coach, baseball games, baseball practices, all these other different things that you have going on in life that you still get fulfillment from.
Yeah.
But also, like, it's finding that sweet spot. I'm the same way. I'm best probably between 7:30 to about 11:30 because around 11:30, that's whenever I'm like, all right, what am I going to eat? I didn't bring lunch today, and then I start thinking about that, and then after I eat, my creativity is gone because I've got a belly full of food, and I've got other things that I could be doing that don't require a whole lot of brain power and moving and shaking the earth.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is you're going to maximize your effectiveness and efficiency if you will work on the things that matter the most in those optimal hours. Yeah. So, like, in my window of time, which is somewhere in the morning, I don't know, because right now it's like 8:30 and I'm firing. I've only had like 3 sips of this coffee, and I'm firing like on all cylinders.
Yeah.
And I anticipate that to go on right up until I eat lunch today, whatever that is. But I can get more work done in that 3 or 4 hour window, knowing when I'm at my best. Which is one of the things where it's like a lot of like I can get so much done in those little windows that I don't have to work myself 10 or 12 hours a day. I think what's happening a lot of times when you see people that are overworked is that they're not understanding stuff like this, or they're just bad workers. Like they don't get stuff done. They just gradually go throughout their day, and they're not organizing their day. Like for me, I know every week, for the most part, like this year, it's going to be like 45 weeks out of the 52 weeks this year, I have to write a sermon.
Yeah.
that is the hardest thing I'm going to do throughout the week. That's going to be the most time intensive. It's going to be the most physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally draining thing I do throughout the week. But if I will use proper time, so like you can look at my calendar. Tuesday morning, I have a big block on it. And then Wednesday morning, I have a big block on it. And it literally says, sermon prep, do not schedule anything else. So this was for, again, whenever I had an assistant, it let Megan know, do not schedule anything in these blocks. These are the 6 hours, 7 hours that I'm carving out to finish this sermon.
Yeah.
Everything else on my week is totally negotiable. I can do whatever, whenever, but I have to have those, and that's why I'm freed up to be able to go do a lot of other stuff, because I've put what's most important and what comes with a deadline every week.
Yeah.
And that's why there are certain things that don't have deadlines, and so I don't mind on my to-do list. And I moved to a digital to-do list. Oh, gosh, I bet it's been 6 years ago now, because I used to do a whiteboard in my office, because when I was the associate pastor here, I kind of had a job like what Pastor Cheryl has now, where I have a little bit of oversight over a lot of stuff. My stuff was all over the place. So the only way I could figure out how to organize it, and there was constantly new stuff getting added to me, was I had a whiteboard, and I would segment it into like prayer ministry, missions, first impressions, which I used to be the first impressions team lead, some of the print stuff that I would have to do, whatever. And I would just every week check it off, and then I would have to erase it and recreate the list every week. I would have to like take pictures or whatever. So I moved to a digital to-do list called Todoist, Todoist. I've tried to get as many people on staff on this as possible, because I love it, because even the free version, which I don't pay for it, so I use the free version. Like if I've got something that pops up on a Monday and I go, you know what, it's just not going to happen this week, it would fall into that important but not urgent type deal, or whatever it is, but I know I've got time because I've always got stuff scheduled out. Like I like it because I can click one button and I can move it to next Monday. And for me, as long as I know that it's written down, I know that I'm not going to miss it. But when it's not on my list for that week, it's not stressing me out either. So it like flips to the next week automatically. And so that for me, like if there's something that comes up that is going to mess with my optimal hours, I'm not going to do it this week.
Yeah.
I'm just going to put that off for another week, because we talked about eat that frog. Like, yes, there are some things that like procrastination is not always a good thing, but sometimes it's really not the end of the world.
Yeah.
If procrastinating something that is 3 months down the road to another week is going to help you be more effective this week, then by all means. But if you do have that one task that you know has to get done today, don't save it for the end of the day. It's going to ruin your whole day.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Do it first thing, and then you're going to enjoy and be productive the rest of your day. But when it comes to priorities, those are some of the things that I really think of. And honestly, when it comes to priorities, I think having a to-do list, whether or not you like a digital one, or like Megan, she likes a handwritten one still.
Yeah.
I actually have started – I have my digital one, and then sometimes I'll even start a little daily one as well, where I don't want to put it onto my other to-do list, but I know there's another little list of stuff that's piling up that, like, as I'm thinking throughout the day, or this happens a lot of times, this is probably some sort of spiritual attack or something, but a lot of times in my prayer time in the morning, like 7 things will come to my mind that I need to do.
Yeah.
And so that way I don't have to get my phone out or my computer out and put it into Todoist, I'll have like a little note card here, and I'll just go like write that down and then get back to my prayers.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to forget it, and I don't really want to interrupt my prayer time either, but like there's these things that just pop up. Like if I'm praying for someone specifically, and then I'll feel the Lord go like, you need to send them a text. Well, I know by the end of my prayer time, I'm going to forget that the Lord said that. So, like, I'll, like, write, send text to Jared, just real quick, stuff that comes up. So, really, if you're not working from some type of to-do list, you scare the life out of me. Whoever that is that does not have a list of projects that they know have to be done. Like I think you have a lot on Asana, right? We use Asana here.
Yeah, I put a lot of my task in Asana.
Use the personal side of that. Like there's a personal task list.
If I pulled up my Asana, it's all mixed in there.
Yeah.
So, like we have some things coming down the pipeline, but like if I know that I've got to contact somebody, like because the Lord put it in my heart, hey, you should reach out to this person. Okay, case in point, one of my really good friends, his name is Kenneth. He went on a hunting trip to Africa, and the Lord said, hey, you should probably just call him right before he leaves for his trip, pray with him, quote that scripture, and then the Lord gave us dominion over the animals of the land and the fish of the sea. You know, he wants us to take charge and do all these things. I said, we're going to pray. We're going to hope that he has safe travels and that he goes to and hunts the animals that he has that he on that list that he wants or whatever. And so I'm sitting there and I'm talking to him about this trip before, and I was like, all right. And I'm doing this, and I'm like, I had to put in my calendar. I'm sorry, dude. I would forget. Like, you're important enough to me that I want to talk to you right before you leave your trip. And I told him this, and he kind of looked at me. He's like, all right, whatever works for you, bud. But I know myself, like, because I'll forget.
Yeah.
Like, I have to write stuff down, and I have to, like, I'm trying to be more intentional about those things. And I think the way for me to be more intentional about those things and on the relationship side of things is to, even if it's just sending a text to someone, it's just to write it down and put it that way I can be reminded of it, because people like Kenneth, people that other people that serve on the team, if they've got major life events happening, they mean enough to me that I should be able to reach out to them and pray for them and do those things.
Well, a lot of people
It's a funny story because it feels weird saying that, but it's like whenever your birthday rolls around, like I'm not gonna remember to wish you a happy birthday because I've got all these other things in life that are happening. So I've got to be intentional about saying, Scott, you mean enough to me that I'm gonna send you a birthday text or I'm gonna go out and get you a gift card or whatever.
I think some people fight back against like the relational side of leadership being scheduled like that because it doesn't seem authentic. It seems like a task, but it's really not the case. Like there are tasks that end up on my, like I had one on my list yesterday that just said call this person, and it's not impersonal to have that list of people that that I'm trying to track with or need to follow up with or whatever. Like, but I know people that be just like, well, that just seems very impersonal and almost like systematic. Like, do you really care about them, or are you just trying to check them off your list? It's like, well, it's both, to be honest. Like, because if they don't make it on my list, I'm probably going to forget to check on them.
Yeah.
So what seems, less loving, to just not check on them or to put them on a list and treat that interaction almost like a task, but it's not a task. That it's really actually important. But like, there are people that would fight back against that, and you're like, no, that just seems like, you should just do things naturally, relationally. You don't need to, write down a list of 5 names to.
But for people like yourself and myself who have aspects of our personalities that we're introverted, we understand the importance of relationships, but our natural instinct is not to seek out those relationships and cultivate those relationships. And being intentional about those things and understanding our weaknesses, is something that I'm grateful that God has given me the wisdom and the insight to say, hey, this is something that you need to work on. And I'm working on it the way that I know how to work on it.
Yeah. If I don't schedule stuff like that, my natural drift will send me to isolation. And so I have to schedule that sort of stuff. And I also have to lean on people around me that are really good at it. So, like, my wife is God's gift to me in this area because, like, what was it? Friday night? I think it was Friday night. Like, we had baseball practice, and then, like, the next thing right after that, she's leaving. And she's like, hey, don't forget, we're going to Rio Grande. And I'm like, sweet. That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't realize at the time because, of course, she told me, but I forgot that we were having dinner with a family from church.
Yeah.
So she does a really good job of that sort of stuff, of helping me not, drift towards isolation and away from people, but she also helps me really with that. And again, this is part of, you need to find people and put people around you that are not exactly like you.
Yeah.
Right? Like Megan's hospitality gift is like top of her spiritual gifts assessment. It's the bottom of mine. And I think that was one of the beautiful things God did, because I was just thinking about this past week. There's, I was part of an ordination service Sunday for a guy that we poured into here at Southridge and is now an ordained pastor with a ministry here in the area. And I was reading, there's passages in 1 Timothy and 2 Timothy that they're called like the charge of the new pastor.
Yeah.
It's what you read at the ordination or whatever. And one of them says in 1 Timothy, in that portion, talks about how the pastor needs to be a welcoming and hospitable person. And I thought, oh man, what does that say about me?
Yeah.
And then I thought, well, I wonder if the Lord has paired me with someone in life that can help me meet that qualification where I might not naturally.
Yeah.
Like with, given, if I was on my own, I'm certain that I would figure it out. But I feel like the Lord gave me a huge blessing and grace by pairing me in life with someone who that is their strong suit. So it helps me meet that qualification of hospitality that I might otherwise want to neglect because it isn't part of the way that I was just naturally wired.
Yeah. That's so good, and I want to talk a little bit about that and hang out on that topic a little bit, and that's the importance of surrounding yourself with people, with the right people. John Maxwell talks about it in his book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. It's called The Law of the Inner Circle, and it says that leaders' potential is determined by those close to them.
Yeah.
And this is like your absolute closest people to you, and your success is reliant on these people. Talk a little bit about that, and why is it important to be surrounded by the absolute right people?
Yeah. So there's two different aspects of this that I want to talk about. First is, who does the individual leader surround themselves just in life in general? And then who does the individual leader surround themselves with in the leadership role that they have in their vocation? So to start in the first arena, who do we surround ourselves with in our lives outside of our vocation or as supplemental to our vocation? Those are the people that ultimately are going to be pouring into you. And so it would be very problematic for me if the circle of people I was doing life with was a bunch of people that were going nowhere.
Yeah.
Like that would be hard for me, because I have aspirations of moving forward in my life, of being as successful as and that's such a weird thing to say in ministry, because really the success isn't up to me. It's up to God working through me, and whatever he wants to do, I'm good with. But like, I want to be whatever we would consider in ministry successful.
Yeah.
I want to
or
grow.
Whatever God has for you,
Exactly.
You want to be doing it the absolute to the best of your ability.
100%. So if I just find people that, unfortunately, there are people that are pastors, that they have congregations that can sustain their salary for the next 20 years, and that's good enough for them.
Yeah.
That's just good enough for them. Well, at least we'll be able to keep the lights on. God bless you if that's you, but I'm not going to surround myself with people like that. Mm-mm. I have bigger aspirations, and honestly, I think God has bigger aspirations than that. So I'm seeking in my personal life to surround myself with people that are further ahead than me in a lot of ways, and that do have big dreams and aspirations, people that will push me in that arena as well. So like, our Wednesday morning Bible study, when we get together, that's a group of very successful guys in a lot of different ways. They're good husbands, they're good fathers, they're good professionals. They have goals in life. They're moving somewhere. They want to do something. So being around that group of guys makes me also want to be that type of person. So that who we surround ourselves with outside of our vocation or that is supplemental to our vocation is incredibly important. Like I chose, I have a mentor that that is the same way. Like he has big aspirations in life. He wants to see God move in amazing ways. Like I don't go find a mentor that's like sitting on their butt nursing like what they've been nursing for the last 40 years.
Yeah.
That don't have any aspirations for seeing the kingdom of God explode, like, and all that. So like finding those types of people, like, and being around people even that make you a little bit uncomfortable and a lot of times disagree with. And you can supplement that circle there, especially now more than ever, through things like books and podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
And if you only ever listen to or read people that you agree with, you'll never actually grow.
Yeah.
Like my whole way into work this morning, I listened to a podcast from a guy that I adamantly disagree with on this topic. But I've listened to, I don't know, probably 10 hours of this guy, Mike Winger at BibleThinker.org. I agree with him on the vast majority of things he talks about, but like he's doing this series because the topic of women in ministry has become such a divisive thing over the last couple of years. Really, it's gotten kind of ugly and nasty with some high-profile leaders saying some bad things. So he's doing this series to try to help, and so he pours a lot into it. But I adamantly disagree with him. But the amount of stuff that I've learned and grown from, and so like Mike is part of my circle. Even though that dude has no idea who I am. He has hundreds of thousands of followers on YouTube.
Yeah.
But I get to call him part of my circle because he is pouring into me every week, whether he knows that or not. Every book that I read, those guys become part of my circle. Mark Batterson, who, if you've never got to know like who Mark Batterson is through his books, man, he's an unbelievable author. But he was talking, he talks a lot about, he has this unbelievable library of books. He's read like thousands upon thousands about thousands across every platform and discipline that you can imagine, like neurology and science, and then, you know, gardening or whatever it is that he can glean insight from. And like he says, like it takes the average person about 2 years to write a book, and that's all the work and the everything that they do. So essentially every time you read a book, you're gaining 2 years of life experience. He said, so I like that for him caused him to go and like be an avid reader. Like I think at one point it was like 3,000 plus books.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That may even be a small, like sometimes he'll do interviews in his office and it's crazy. Yeah. All you see is books. It looks like his books are literally trying to like bury him. There's that many of them. But in his mind, every one of these I read, I'm getting 2 years worth of that guy's work into me. Yeah. And so you've got the people that you sit around the table with. You've got the people that you invite their voices in through a one-way conversation, like a book or a podcast. That's incredibly important. So find people that are where you want to be or are on the way to where you want to be, and surround yourself with them. And do not add into that circle people that will detract from that. And as followers of Jesus, I'm not saying that everyone that you hang out with has to be successful, because yes, we do have to have time where we are hanging out with folks or pouring into and spending time with folks. But I'm saying the people that are getting to speak into your life and they get the most consistent face time with you should all be headed in the same direction. Yeah. You know, so I've got that with the guys that I do my Bible study with. I've got that with my mentor. I've got that with books and podcasts. I've got that with my wife. God has surrounded me with someone that is in a lot of ways similar to me, but also in a lot of ways different from me. And she has been very beneficial in helping me get to where I'm at in life, and also helping push me to where I want to be. And so she, in a lot of ways, God made her to be able to make up for the deficiencies that are in me. So that's that first circle that would be like extra to my vocation. Or the other side of that is, and I was listening to the Carey Nieuwhof Leadership Podcast this past week, and he had Rick Warren from Saddleback Church on there, and he referenced John Maxwell also in regards to this. He was saying, as the leader of an organization, what happens a lot of times, and this is how you get really poor staff culture and really poor staff in general, is a lot of times if as a leader, if you are a 7 as a leader, most of the leaders that you will hire will be 6s. 6s or 5s, because you don't want to hire someone that has a higher leadership capacity than you. Which is a drastic mistake. Because what happens is if you're a 7 and you hire a 6, well, that 6 is going to hire 5s. And so Rick was talking about, like, at one point their church at Saddleback, he said the staff was not good, and he couldn't figure out why until he finally remembered that thing from Maxwell, or had a conversation with Maxwell or something. And it was like, if you're always hiring people that are just a little bit behind you and less of a leader than you, they will do the same thing. And eventually at the bottom levels, which, you know, the bottom levels of your organization are all your frontline people, the people that are having the most, you know, he said you'll end up with 3s and 4s down there. And that's why you won't have a good staff.
That's good.
And so what you have to do is, first off, if you're a 7 as a leader, do everything you can to get to a 10. But then in the process, hire people that are actually better than you. Hire people that don't need you so much as you need them. And that ultimately then raises the leadership level of the whole organization. So surrounding yourself outside of work with the right people to just do life with, but also surrounding yourself inside the organization. Like Andy Stanley has always talked about, that if he is the smartest person in the room in a meeting that's going on at North Point, that something is drastically wrong. Like, I want people that are smarter than me, that are better than me, surrounding me in the room, because if every good idea has to come from me, this place is not going to go very far. It's just not. If any organization is solely dependent on one person, eventually it will crash and burn. It will run out of ideas. It will run out of steam. That person will get fed up or burnt out eventually. And so don't surround yourself with hirelings that are all just yes people that look up to you and like, oh, I'll just do anything that you say, never push back, never have any issue. If that's you, ultimately, as your organization progresses, it will become very toxic, and you will end up with people on your staff that should never be on your staff, because the people behind you will follow your same hiring patterns of hiring people that are less of a leader than they are. Because here's the problem, and I have seen this firsthand. Insecure leaders are the ones that do this. Insecure leaders hire people that they can control and manipulate, that will not challenge them.
Ooh, that's good.
That right there is a death knell to an organization. It is the reason why there are certain people, because they will do this process of hiring people that are just yes men, that just blindly follow, never challenge. You're the greatest thing to ever happen since sliced bread type leadership.
I don't need that.
It doesn't matter where you go. If that's how you hire, you will always cap your leadership right there. You'll never be able to progress past that point because of who you surrounded yourself and your organization with.
You'll never grow. No. I mean, you'll never grow, because you'll be really content with where you're at, because everybody else is not as good as a leader or a visionary, or maybe it could be even something in a specific area. You'll never grow past what you already are at. You got to be, if you have people in your life that are past you, one of the things, it's just like a race. Whenever you were younger and you and your friends were racing, right? And then one of your friends got ahead of you, you tried everything you could to catch up to your friend, because you didn't want to be left behind by your friend. You at least want to maintain that movement and that momentum moving forward as you are reaching your goal. And if you've got a whole bunch of people, I mean, look at what Usain Bolt did towards the end of his career in the Olympics, right? He got so good at his thing, he was never challenged to do anything better. He could have ran a lot faster, but at the end of all of his races, he was always looking behind and joking and having a good time. But I guarantee you his times at the end of his races would have been astronomically better. You know, in the terms of the 100-meter dash, it would have been shaved down by the tenths of a second or hundredths of a second that make that much more of an impact. Because there was nobody there challenging him. He thought that he had reached the pinnacle, but if he had somebody that was always pushing and was keeping up with him, his times would have been way better.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you will hire people that are have a higher leadership capacity than you, it will challenge you then to raise your. It inherently comes with that drive to constantly get better, because even though you're hiring people that maybe are smarter than you, more equipped than you, more talented than you, whatever it is, you as the leader still have the obligation to pour into that person.
Yeah.
So in some way, you have to be able to raise your leadership level and IQ to be able to pour into that top level leader as well.
Yeah.
I think why most people outside of insecurity, why they hire people that are maybe lesser leaders than them, is because they think, well, I'm going to find someone and I'm going to build them up, which is a noble task to do. But and from time to time you may do that. I'm not saying that it's wrong for you to hire. Let's say you are a 7, for you to hire a 5 with aspirations that I think that this person could make it up to 7, 8, 9, 10.
Yeah.
Eventually, I'm just saying if everyone in your organization is a 5 and there's no one that's an 8, 9, or 10 to help push you, you're going to have a hard time because you can always stay in front of someone that you're already in front of.
For sure.
That's not going to be hard whatsoever. For you to just keep that little bit of a lead throughout the rest of your tenure is not going to be hard, and it's never going to challenge you.
I don't want to like discredit like Usain Bolt or anything with the amount of hard work and training that he put to get to where he was at. I just saw towards the end of his career where he was achieving like those world records and setting like the bar so stinking high. I just saw like him goofing off like towards the end of his career, and I'm going like I think if he'd have just stayed focused, if he'd had the right people, I guess, like pushing him and challenging him, because it just seemed like, for me, it just seemed like he was just he was content with where he was at, and I saw wasted potential.
I talk to Landon about this all the time. Like Landon, and I do not say this simply because he's my son, but it's 100% true, is a really naturally good baseball player.
Yeah.
However, he also, when he shows up for practice, no longer takes it seriously.
Yeah.
He doesn't try hard at practices normally, and he doesn't give it his best. But then when he goes out at the game time, he's still one of the best kids out there. And I'm trying to get him to understand, because this is where a lot of people are in life. His natural ability has put him light years in front of a lot of kids his age.
Yeah.
But those other kids that have a work ethic,
they're going to pass
to
him
get
up.
better, will pass him.
Yeah.
Eventually. So that's for you. If you're a really good preacher or a really good singer and guitar player, whatever it is that you do, you're a really good, real estate agent, you're a really good, whatever it is. And a lot of that just came naturally for you. If you don't get a discipline of working hard to grow, the people that are working hard will eventually surpass you. Even though you had the natural ability that gave you the advantage at the beginning, they will eventually get you.
Oh, yeah.
Because especially with kids, as kids' bodies mature and things like that, that kid that was all tiny and whatnot at one point is just going to pass you whenever he, maybe he just has a better set of genes and he's going to end up being, 3 or 4 or 5 inches taller than you and more naturally built than you. And eventually that will happen, plus all the hard work. And then boom, he will surpass, where you're at if you don't want to go out and work hard.
Yeah.
And that's just where a lot of people are in life in general. We got and this was true of me. Like, I had a lot of natural ability in pretty much any sport that I played, but I never in my life wanted to work hard for it at all. I mean, I've told this story all the time. Like, I went to the baseball workouts in high school, and I didn't work out. I was just there. It's the way my name was on the list. Yeah. So I never ended up getting stronger. And so all the kids behind me got stronger. They got better. I did not at all. I'll never forget this. I mean, this God's honest truth. My 10th grade year, only 4 kids made the varsity team that were sophomores, because we had when I was a sophomore, Nitro had a team that was nationally ranked. We were ranked 22nd in the nation.
Yeah, it's crazy.
We had like 10 seniors on that team. They were incredible to watch. Like, I never got to play the field, but I was one of 4 sophomores that made that varsity team.
Yeah.
Here's the craziest thing about that. I got kicked out of the first night of tryouts because I wouldn't try hard. We were doing conditioning at the end of it.
Yeah.
And we were doing these like little 3-step pickups where you like shuffle over 3 times, hit the floor, shuffle over 3 times, hit the floor, whatever. And we were supposed to do it like 100 times. And I was just I didn't care. So literally, I got kicked out of the first night of tryouts. The coach is like, literally, get out of here. Go to the locker room now. You're finished. I'm like,
yeah,
awesome. And yet, I still was one of the so that was the ability that I had.
Yeah.
And yet I never worked hard to take myself beyond that ever.
Yeah.
And what scares me is I see that in Landon right now, and so I'm trying to tell him, like, listen, yes, you have all the ability in the world where you'll probably always be one of the better kids at your age group, but someone somewhere
is working twice as hard,
harder than you. And if you've got aspirations to go play ball in college, or heck, I'm not going to dash his hopes if you want to play in the major leagues, but you can't. You have to work hard, and that's the same if you are a business owner and you are just you're not growing, you're not doing everything you can. You know, it's weird for us in ministry because, like, where do we graduate to in ministry? Like,
yeah,
when you go to bigger churches, like, but that doesn't mean that we really got a promotion. I
mean, there's not a major leagues or a Forbes 500 list that our business can be on.
No, we do it all for God. Like, we do it all for the glory of God, for God to be seen in us. So it's weirder for us, but, like, man, if you're a business owner or heck, let's just say you work at a fast food restaurant, well, be the best stinking drive-through person that you can possibly be. And like, what, I don't care what you do. If you mow grass, be the best at it.
Yeah.
Like, work hard at it, especially if you are the people of God. If you are a Christian, like, the New Testament talks about it, that in everything that we do, we should do it like we are doing it for the Lord.
Yep.
So if you work at McDonald's, you work at McDonald's for the Lord. If you work at, Forbes 500 company, you do that like you do it for the Lord, like whatever you do.
Yeah.
So I don't care where you're at in life right now. Like, if you're in high school, if you're in college, if you're at what some would consider an entry-level job, or maybe you're a 50-year vet in a multi-billion-dollar company, do not stop growing and do not stop getting better, because I promise you, someone somewhere is willing to put the work in, and there's a lot of people that are going to make a big difference in this world that did not start out naturally as the best.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I cannot remember the book I was just reading, or where was this? It might be in The Problem of God. I'll have to double check, but someone was telling me, like, the amount of people that have been successful in business that started out with some sort of learning disability is unbelievable. And it's because people with learning disabilities had to learn how to overcome, like, dyslexia or something like that it instilled in them this ability to work hard and because they had to figure that out because they didn't naturally have what everyone else had.
Yeah.
And so, like, there's like I think it is in The Problem of God or something like that I've been reading lately, that it's like it's a pretty good amount of, like, high level leaders that you'd go, like, really? Like, yeah, that person has dyslexia or something like that.
Yeah.
That would be seen as others to be a detriment, but for them it ended up being a blessing to them because it pushed them through that, and they learned the art of working hard.
Yeah.
And working hard and, daily putting in the work will eventually get you further than your natural ability will ever be able to take you.
Yeah.
And that's just true of any walk of life whatsoever. Like, I started out as a pretty decent speaker, and I could have probably preached at a lot of churches and never gotten any better.
Yep.
But that wasn't good enough for me. I want to be the absolute best.
Yeah.
Right? Like I want, and even that sounds weird because I know that, again, we work in a church, and so it's like, what does that mean to be the best? I don't know, but I want to be the best.
Yeah.
At whatever it is, and so I want to put in the time and the effort and the work, and I want to develop myself in a way to do that.
Yeah.
And I want to surround myself with people to do that in my personal life. I want to surround myself with people that push me and make me better in my professional life.
Yeah. It's just naturally learning to fight against these things that are holding us back, like this resistance that's impeding our development and our growth. And that's fighting against things that waste time. It's fighting against procrastination. It's fighting against people that are constantly negative. It's fighting against this resistance that's pushing and stopping momentum and moving forward. And sometimes like hard decisions have to be made to where it's just like I just have to cut this person out of my life, or I've got to quit eating this, or I've got to quit watching this, or just fighting against those things that are taking up our time, that are cultivating this natural procrastination that we all have. But it's feeding into the procrastination. You have to begin to feed into the things that move you forward and kind of like get this engine moving in that direction. Yeah. So
I think one of the big hurdle here is that our current culture is so busy that people don't know where this fits in to their life.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of people are not really growing in life, is they don't know where it fits in. And this comes down to the principle, again, of priority. Like, if you don't make time for it, if you don't prioritize what's most important, then you'll never have time for it. Like, you'll just continue on in the rat race. And we kind of like, we fool ourselves into thinking that, like, man, I'm so busy, so that must be good things are happening. Maybe I am growing. It's like, no, busyness is not the scale by which we're looking at whether or not you're progressing in life at all. In fact, I don't find myself to be like out. It comes and goes with busyness, but I don't find myself to be that overwhelmed with the amount of stuff that I'm doing. But a lot of that is, strategically planning when I'm able to do what I'm able to do.
Yeah.
And so busyness in and of itself is not a marker of whether or not you're actually being productive and successful in life. It could just mean that you're a really bad manager of your time and you're saying yes to too many things.
Yeah.
And so you're like, well, I don't. When would I have time to sit down and read a book? I don't know. Turn Netflix off for 30 minutes.
Well, yeah. Look at your schedule. If you think on Monday night you've got this show to watch, and then Tuesday you've got Chicago Fire, and then Wednesday America. I haven't had cable in God knows how long. But if you're looking forward to the evenings and you're watching all these different shows every single night, you could sit there and go, you know what, I can turn something off and then watch this and invest, like you said, just a little bit of your time into
car time, man. Car time is huge. I mean,
oh yeah, for sure.
I've already listened to something for 30 minutes this morning.
Yeah.
Like on my way in, I listened because I've got about a 25-minute drive to and from church. So, I mean, that gives me almost an hour.
Yep.
Where, sure, sometimes I pop on the Spotify and want to listen to music and whatnot. But I'd say the vast majority of the time, whenever it's just me or just me and Megan, like, there's going to be some sort of thing that can help me grow.
Yep.
Or if I have to leave the office today for whatever reason and drive anywhere, like in between those 2 points, I'm most likely going to be listening to something that's going to help me grow. And it's going to be, as someone that probably does have a lot of stuff on my plate, there's still cracks everywhere.
For sure.
Like, for me to be able to do, I used to do, like, this is funny because this will just tell you a little bit about my personality of, like, you probably listen to this podcast and be like, man, that's a super disciplined and driven person. Yeah. Sometimes. It depends on what person wakes up.
Yeah.
Right? But then, like, this will show you the other side of it. Like, sometimes, like, when I play video games, I would play video games, and, like, for a lot of people, they'd be like, man, what a time waster. Well, sometimes what I'll do when I play video games is put my AirPods in and listen to a podcast or a book while I'm playing video games.
Yeah.
So I'm growing and experiencing leisure time at the same time. And so I've even like I promise you there is time in your day for you to spend time getting better. Yeah. There is time for that. You definitely have an hour a month that you could meet with a mentor that is a little bit further down the road than you.
Yeah.
Like you definitely have that. You definitely have the time to go to a conference. Yeah. You've got 3 days out of your year that you could go to a conference. You have 30 minutes a day that you could listen to a book or read a book or pull up YouTube, watch a YouTube video that will help. You've got the time. It's a priorities thing. Yeah. It's not like when people say I don't have the time, what they really mean is that I will not make the time.
Yeah. I will not find the time to grow. Yeah. I want somebody else to tell me what I need to do.
Everyone else in the world has the same amount of time as you.
Yep.
And there are people that are growing and have these priorities of reading and listening and growing and all of this stuff, and they have the same 24 hours a day. They're just choosing to spend it differently than you.
Yeah. So good. Man, I enjoyed this one. This is good. We had another topic. Maybe we'll just keep this going in a future episode of the potluck. But it's time for our mystery meat. I know. It's like that one horse pill that you got to take every single day.
This is the frog. I want the mystery meat on my next episode to be the first thing that we do, so then I can enjoy the rest of the podcast. That is eating the frog at its finest.
All right, man. Mystery meat.
That's my handwriting.
It is. Yeah, I know. So this is going to be a good one for you. You probably already know what it is. If you could have coffee with one person from the Bible other than Jesus, who would it be and why?
That's such a good one. We should put that back in for other people. I'll answer it, but then I would love to hear other people answer it as well.
All right. We'll do that. Does that mean I've got to come up with a different answer every time that I pull this?
No, yours can be the same, but I would love to hear
I'll come up with a different answer.
Other people on that. What is? There's literally so many people that I would be like, man.
I think it just for me. I think it just depends on the type of conversation I want to have.
Yeah, exactly. Because like, if I could, I wish I would have wrote that question differently. Like, from all the different eras that we read about in the Bible, could I just choose one person? Because like, okay, I would love to have coffee with Adam. Find out, what really took place there.
Well, that's the dude that's on my mind that just came through my mind. But I want to know where he came up with the different names for animals.
Yeah,
how did he look at this and go, "That's a aardvark"? Yeah, just make up random sounds. And that's what they were.
I want to know that. I want to know, like with Noah, like for real, bro. What was that like? Like so, like there's so many people. Like I would love to know, like, but even and so you go Old Testament with a lot of that, or like having coffee with King David, like somebody like that, Solomon, who's the wisest person, to live, or goodness gracious, I mean, Isaiah and Jeremiah seem like two really interesting guys. Yeah. But then if I wanted to know what it was like to be in the first century, like following Jesus of Nazareth around Palestine, like. Someone like Peter would be like super fun. Someone like Paul, gosh, I mean, it would just be, this is why eternity, I believe is going to be so interesting, is we will get to have these conversations because there's so many.
Yeah. You think of like Daniel in the lion's den. Yeah. You're like, what in the world?
Yeah. Like tell me that, like, cause my hope is that we will have access to people. Like that, and I'm certain that we will. Where like we could sit down. I don't know. Maybe we won't even care at that point. I know that things will be different, but like, can you sit me down and give me story time? Yeah. But this time, like from your perspective as the person that was there, I think will be incredible.
Yeah.
Like Daniel, really, what happened? Like, did you have to karate chop a couple of them lines at first for them to know what's up? Like,
yeah.
Like, what really happened in there? What was it like? Like, with just all this different stuff. Like, ask Mary what it was like to be at the foot of the cross and see your son up there while understanding and knowing what he's doing, but yet still having to go through the process of it and how agonizing that would be. Like, talk to Mary Magdalene. Like, what was that like when you turned around and you're like, Jesus, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
Right? Like, just so many, like, cool options there.
If there's story time in heaven, I hope they use like the old school felt boards.
Yeah. That's the one thing that's missing from our vacation Bible school this week is a felt board.
A felt board, yeah.
I asked Jessica if we were going to have flannelgram, and she's like, what is that? I'm like, you grew up in the same church as me. You know what flannelgram is. Come on.
Yeah, it's the little cutouts that have like felt and it's not like Velcro, but it just sticks up on the board.
Yeah.
And then they move them along. And
I always remembered it was always the Wednesday night of vacation Bible school for us.
Yeah.
It was like the hell, fire, and brimstone. We're going to get you saved tonight. And it was always like, it was either flannelgram or magnets or something. And there was always, I would just remember like a lot of fire.
Yeah.
Right? Like a lot of fire magnets.
Yeah.
And stuff.
They opted for like the flames package.
Yeah, it was like, can we get upgraded to more fire with our magnets? Like, I remember that on Wednesday night of VBS growing up, and that's the only thing that's missing from our VBS is a flannelgram.
Yeah. Well, dude, I appreciated today's conversation and personal development and leadership. I think one of the great things is that like if anybody does have questions about anything, myself or Pastor Scott are available to even like talk about this more. Maybe just like if you don't know where to start or whatever, we can kind of get you pointed in that direction and work alongside of you and to help you achieve those goals that you have in your life. I mean, like I said at the beginning of the last episode that we did on this, we're not experts by any means, but we've taken some time to invest in our personal leadership and our personal growth, and one of the ways that we can do that too is invest into others that may want to see that potential unlocked in their lives. So, but really appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you all next Friday. Thank you so much for listening in with us today. We really appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You can also follow us on social media, on Facebook, Instagram. You can also watch the video version of this on YouTube as well. All you have to do is search up the Pastor's Potluck Podcast. From all of us here, we want to say thank you, and we'll see you next week.